guys, and welcome back to the shop. I am the Convicted Christian. If you're new here, I am 7 years clean and sober. I did almost 10 years in prison, but now I am free and off parole, all thanks to God's love for me. Sorry about any dust that's maybe flying around. I cleaned up the shop a little bit today, so it's a little bit dusty. But today, as all the returning viewers know, it is Life Story Monday. And before I go, something that I wanted to show, if you guys have missed last week's Hobby Friday, we finished up the polishing and sanding for the lid to an urn that I'm making for a coworker, and I think it turned out phenomenal. I think this looks so good. This is oak. A lot of people will say that oak is not nice to work with, and when it's dry, it's not. This was not a this has not been the most fun of projects that I've made with such a large piece of oak, but I think it looks just amazing whenever it's got that little touch of stain on it and a little bit of polish that I like to do. And I wanted to show that because I know my wife really enjoyed it. The person this is going to really enjoys it. And I've really enjoyed making it. It's been a lot of fun to do these types of things for other people. So, Life Story Monday. What are we going to talk about today? It's going to be a little bit of a jump ahead. Last time I talked about my time at the Challenge Academy, which had its own fraughts and perils and its accomplishments. One thing I will say is that graduating from there up until the last probably 7 years of my life, have been was the greatest accomplishments I've ever made. Walking across that stage in my dress uniform, getting that HSED, if you want to call it, it was phenomenal. I never would have gotten there. I never would have made it had I not just had an amazing support team around me and people willing to stick their neck out for me. The motto while you're in is the courage to change. And the motto that they give you upon your release is the courage to continue. And for the longest time, I definitely did not continue. I reverted quite a bit. And then I got my life together. And it was a hard battle, but now I am on that road of continuing and having the courage to continue. Keep going, guys. Keep making those changes. Keep doing what needs to be done, and you'll get there. Okay, so 17, about to be turned 18. Let's jump ahead a little bit and see where it takes us. So, first thing I got to talk about is I did get out. I did get with a girl, and she did get pregnant, and that child actually turned 18 this year. And for the last 2.5, 3 years, I haven't had much contact with her. I've tried to text her. I've tried to be a part of her life. But because of something that happened that I'll get to when I get to it in my life story Mondays, a relationship with her, close relationship with her, was not necessary. But at the time, I wasn't trying. After she was born, I wanted to do my own thing. I was a deadbeat father. I didn't want to pay child support. I didn't want to look for work. I was your typical immature male that didn't know what it meant to be a man. And so his children suffered for it. His child, 'cause I only had one child, suffered for it. I would pop in and out once or twice a year, say hi, tried to not create any relationship. I was very lucky in my parents because they stepped up and tried to be a part of this child's life. And it was good for her to at least have somebody from my side of the family actually try. Someone step up and do all the things that I should have been doing. But not taking accountability and taking responsibility for my part in her being born allowed me to get into more and more progressive trouble. And now I no longer had the cushion of being a minor. And so things started stacking up fast. I couldn't hold down a job, not because I physically couldn't, but because I didn't want to. I had issues that I wasn't dealing with. I still didn't have my emotional control under my belt. My laziness was just astronomical. I was still chasing happiness, and that was through video games, through women, through drugs and alcohol, through all the things that could potentially and eventually destroy my life. At this time, I met my first wife, who was not a terrible person. Still isn't a terrible person. She had her own issues that she struggled with. She had her own demons that she was fighting, and together we were just running away from our demons. We were chasing each other, running away from our demons. Did we deeply care about each other? Absolutely. Was that enough to create a stable relationship? Absolutely not. We did not have any of the proper communication about belief systems, potential children, any of that. And we didn't even talk about marriage or being together. We literally were just rolling with the punches, and we would be on again, off again a few times, and it was definitely something that could have been beautiful, something that could have been worth saving. At this time, it was not. We weren't putting in the effort, we weren't putting in the time or the work to make it what it should have been. But I don't regret any of that time. Mainly because without that time, maybe I wouldn't have the wife I have now. The things I learned from that relationship, maybe I wouldn't have brought into the relationship I have now, that I believe that I've really grown out of and became a better husband and became a better father. But at the time, it was not worth anything other than what little we put into it. And so, yeah, but just on again, off again, on again, off again. I had an apartment that my parents had helped me procure, but like everything else, I tricked it off. I'd barely pay rent the 4 months I was there. Completely trashed the apartment. The idea of having an apartment, even if it was just a studio, was more important to me than actually maintaining it. So one time I had one of those moments like I had in high school, and I absolutely panicked. And because of my panic, I ran away. And because I ran away, my parents and my girlfriend at the time ended up having to clean up a huge mess that I left behind. And because I left that huge mess, and they clean it up for me, I ended up not having to deal with a lot of my consequences. They did, in regards to the apartment. Now, while I was gone, I ended up stealing a vehicle, uh, and I ended up getting caught. Uh, I just started driving in one direction, and I ended up getting caught. And I was given a deferment of my punishment, which just means that, hey, this is your first adult problem. This is your first adult crime. We're going to give you a chance to make up for it, and we're not going to send you somewhere. And hopefully, this is the wake up call you needed. They might as well have not even tried. It didn't help in the slightest. So I got out, and I just kept, like I said before, just kept tricking it off. Met some amazing people. I got to meet homeless people, and I got to meet people that were struggling with their own addiction, and so many of these people are actually quite amazing people. People worth knowing. But I wasn't. I wasn't learning. I wasn't going through stuff. I was still in my downward spiral, which would continue for the next almost 10 years. And in this time, I made a good show of it. I made a good outward appearance of holding it together. And the entire time, I was absolutely terrified of what was going to happen next. Something that I've had to contend with, and most people do. I didn't know how to at this time. Was, how do I not fear the future when up to this point my present has not been great? By my choice, admittedly, but I didn't see it that way. I was very much victim mentality. I was very much, why does this keep happening to me? Why do I feel this way? Why do I have to go through this when no one else seems to have to go through it? The problem with that thinking is that everybody goes through it. Everybody goes through it. It's what you do with it in the process of going through it. It's how do you handle it? How do you get past it? How do you overcome it? And I could not see how I was going to get through it. I did not see how I had enough strength, how I had enough power to do it. I couldn't. And so I just ran the same circles. I broke a ton of laws. A lot that never were caught. Stuff that people would consider victimless. There's always a victim. Even if you are part of that statistic, you're victimizing yourself. There's always a victim. There's always someone that's going to be hurt. Even if you can't see it. Even if that is outside of what you want to see. And I didn't want to see it because I cared about people as long as it meant I was happy. And once I became unhappy, I had to run away from whatever was making me unhappy, or uncomfortable, or stressed, or afraid, or whatever, or mad. At this time, because I didn't have to live with my parents, and I could go, I'm an adult, I can go wherever the heck I want. I didn't get mad a whole bunch because I could run away as much as I wanted. When I was living at home with my parents, I couldn't run away because that was my home. And even though I did try to run away a few times, I ended up going back. Well, now I don't have to ever go back. And I did that for a little bit. But I remember when I finally went to prison for the first time. I was on parole at the time, and I didn't have a vehicle. I didn't have an easy way to get to the parole office, especially from where I was staying at the time. And even though I could have walked, sure, it would have been an hour and a half walk. I could have walked. Bus tokens aren't that expensive, especially back. This is 2006. Bus token was a buck 25. I easily could have taken the bus. I just didn't want to learn the schedule. I didn't want to learn how to properly utilize the things around me that would help me succeed where I needed to succeed. I was blowing off child support. I was supposed to fill out applications, and I didn't really want to work, so I would put in bogus applications. I would put things on the application that I knew they wouldn't hire me, even though I easily could have gotten a job and learned a skill and not be as far behind as I am now on retirement, how much I get paid for the skills that I've earned or I've learned and grew over the years. But to get back to where I was going, the first time I went to prison, I had missed out on an appointment that I had with them, and it's your PO. You better, if you don't have good reason, you better be at your appointment. Um, well, I wasn't even in Sheboygan at the time, where my PO was based out of. I was in New Holstein, Wisconsin. And so I just didn't go. I just didn't go. And so now I was effectively absconding from my PO, which, hindsight 2020, I wasn't absconding because I had committed a new crime. In all honesty, they probably would have held me for 48 hours or more. If it was the weekend, they would have decided what to do with me. But more than likely, without any new crime, they probably would have kicked me loose to the halfway house / community house. It's where people that are effectively on parole and homeless go to until they can get on their feet. And that would have been that. That would have been that. But my brain was so focused on the fact that I'm a terrible human being. Now this is what I thought. This isn't pity. I'm not looking for anyone to look at me and go, "Oh, poor Andrew." But the way I view myself was, I'm a terrible human being. I stole a vehicle. I've never really atoned for any of my past crimes, and I never have really felt truly punished for what I've done. She's gonna lock me up. My PO. She's gonna lock me up. I'm gonna have to do the 2 years of my deferred judgment, and I'm going to lose all my friends and all my stuff, and that's gonna make me even more of a terrible person. And how am I ever going to find a job if I have time in prison? And what's the old saying? Well, the old saying, I was missing the forest for the trees. I was so close to the problem. I couldn't step back and look at the whole situation and realize, okay, this is bad, but if I stop now, it won't get any worse. So, since I could not see that, I kept running. And I kept running. And I kept running. And in the process, I stole a pedal bike. And that was the wrong pedal bike to steal because apparently it was quite expensive. And the person that had it knew that it was expensive and called it in, which was something that almost had never happened before because it's a pedal bike. And in my opinion, I wouldn't call for a pedal bike. Well, they did. And they called in for a pedal bike, and they saw me. And when they saw me on the now known stolen pedal bike, they want to know, okay, well, who's that guy? They found out I'm absconding from parole. PO, extended supervision, officer, whatever you want to call it. And so a chase ensues. Now, this has got to be, I wish I could have the recording of that, because it has got to be the funniest thing you've ever seen. Because I heard the cop turn around, because we passed each other. I heard the cop turn around, and as soon as I heard those wheels turn, oh, I was gone, because there wasn't a turn there, which means that he was either turning around or going into that driveway, and there was no reason to go in the driveway. So I was gone. Now, remember, I'm in shape. I'm way more in shape than I am now, by far. And I couldn't have been overeating at the time because I didn't have any place to stay. So I'm pretty in shape. The food that I've had is basically decent, pure energy foods. I was gone. I took off, and I went right into somebody's yard, because who's gonna follow a pedal bike with a squad car? Apparently the chief of police. That's who. And he hopped that curb and took off after me. And I looked back, and all I saw was squad right on my tail. But he wasn't going to run me over. But he also didn't have a lot of traction on the grass. So he's trying to keep it under control. I'm free. Adrenaline's rushing through my system. I am just hauling butt out of there. And then I see two trees that are far enough apart for me to make it through, but not far enough for the squad to get through. Took off. So I'm just, yep, you are stuck, because you are so close behind me. There's no way you're going to avoid this. And I hit it, and he hit them trees, tried to stop, couldn't. Bam! He was the only one that was near enough that saw where I might have gone. And by the time that they resumed the chase, I was gone. As much of a not very bright move that I've made through most of my life, I wasn't dumb, and so I'm very resourceful, and I was able to find a spot. It was like being a GTA. I found a spot till the star levels went down, and they weren't searching for me as hard. Because they got other duties, a bike thief that is wanted for parole skipping isn't that big of a deal. So they stopped searching as hard. Once I noticed that I couldn't see a bunch of squads in the area, hop back on the bike that they now knew was stolen, and I was on. Another not very smart move. Took my shirt off, switched it around because I had another shirt. I had those, if you guys remember those zip away pants. Took that off, so I switched from pants to shorts. I thought I was slick, and had I been maybe in a bigger city, probably would have been, but not New Holstein, Wisconsin, with all of 3,000 people in it, and not a whole lot of crime. So they had nothing better to do but kind of keep one eye out for me. Well, they ended up catching me riding around the New Holstein parking lot. Why? I don't know. Maybe I wanted to get caught. Maybe I wanted it to be over. So now the chief of police wasn't alone. He brought in backup. There was 3 cops. One not even from the county. One was a school liaison, and there was him. And so I ended up getting a battery to police charge. Not going to glorify any of it, so I'm not going to get any details. Let's just say by the end of it, all 4 of us ended up getting maced, but only one of us was in the back of a squad, handcuffed. And the sad reality was, as much as I was glad, or as much as I was terrified of going to prison, because now I knew I was going. I just got into a fight with a police officer. I got disorderly. I knew I got disorderly because, I was running. I was fleeing police. As terrified as I was of going to prison and facing my actions and actually taking accountability, I was grateful. Because, one, most police officers, once they catch you, once the situation is calm, the majority of them understand that people are in bad positions. And a lot of crime isn't done out of nefarious reasons. It's out of perceived necessity, even if the perception is off. And so one of the things is that they treated me like a human. They tried to help me, make sure that the mace stopped hurting me. But now I couldn't run anymore. I couldn't. There was no more being backed into a corner and finding a route out. That was it. I was backed in the corner. 2 more walls were put down. I was in the box. It was over. For the first time. Sad to say. This would happen again. But at this point in time, for the first time, I could sigh. And I sort of knew what was coming. And I knew that as long as I stayed strong, well, what I thought was strong, I could make it through. I can make it through. And now I wasn't looking over my shoulder every time that I saw a cop. I didn't have to worry about what I was going to do, how I was going to act, and what I was running from, all those bad feelings, they couldn't reach me. I was going to be behind bars. So I could actually rest and set a routine, and I could recenter myself. And it's really, really sad that it was going to take me going to prison to recenter, because I couldn't figure out how to recenter in real life. Don't let your current circumstance take away your future possibilities. You may have to lose friendships. You may have to lose ties to your community to recenter yourself. But don't let what's happening to you now rob you of what could happen in the future, or what might not happen in the future. Prison shouldn't be what you need to recenter. If it is, then it is. But you can recenter, you can get back to who you really are out here. You don't have to go down the route that I took. You don't have to run and feel like a fleeing animal every time you go out that door into the world. So, see, that's the end for today. Next week we'll talk about my first time in prison. And Wednesday we'll talk about what I learned in this stretch of life. Tell you right now, it's not much. It's probably going to be a pretty short video. But nonetheless, there will be a video. Thanks for joining me. If this helped you at all, let me know. Tell me how you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy the video, let me know. Maybe I'll see if I can switch it up and make it a little bit better. If there's anything you guys want to know, just send a question. I will try to get to it. If it seems like it deserves its own video, maybe I'll make a random through the week video, and I'll make sure that you get tagged into it and all your questions are answered. Thank you again. I truly appreciate the support. I hope to see you on Wednesday. And don't forget to also check out Hobby Friday. Shows a different side of me, and the more creative side. If we're gonna change the world, we need to have the courage to change and change ourselves. Have a good night, guys.